What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Knicks Recap podcast. I'm your host, Troy, and you could be anywhere in the world this afternoon, but you chose to be here with me, and I really do appreciate that. Chat gang, I see you. Knicks Nation, I appreciate you guys tuning in and letting me get into your lunch break or wherever you're watching me and making sure we get you this Knicks news. Guys, I am so hyped for tonight's game between the Knicks and Oklahoma City. Tonight is a statement game, and I need to see the Knicks win it. If you're going to enjoy tonight's game and you want to see the Knicks claim a victory, make sure you hit that like button, drop some hearts in the chat, give me some emojis, and let me know how hype you guys are. But before we get to tonight's game, we have a lot of Knicks content to discuss. We are going to talk about the players in Westchester and what player is most likely going to join the team. Also, Mitchell Robinson has a message for fans. He is firing back at a number of fans that have been questioning where he is, his injury, and when he's going to return. We're also going to be looking at Mikal Bridges and his contract extension and potentially how much he's going to get from the Knicks in the next contract that he receives next offseason. We have some updates on that too. But to start off the show, you guys see it in the thumbnail already. You guys know where we're going to start with. Nick Richards. That's right. According to recent reports by an NBA insider, he reveals that the Knicks and a number of other teams are currently speaking to the Hornets in discussions trying to get a trade done for Nick Richards. We're going to break down exactly what those trade discussions are, potentially what the cost is to get Richards on this team, and what players or player the Knicks will have to give up in that deal. We're going to talk about all of those different topics today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and make sure you have notifications turned on as well too. So that way, anytime we drop new content, you get notified. And now, let's get started. The Knicks are still discussing a trade for Nick Richards. Now, a few days ago, I mentioned that the New York Knicks were not looking to make a major trade happen not a major trade happen at this particular juncture. They were not looking to make a major trade happen at this trade deadline. Maybe some smaller moves, some smaller trades, but a lot of the reports indicated they just did not have the assets at this point in time to pull off one of those major moves. But that begs the question, what is a major move? Is a major move a Nick Richards? Or is that a smaller move? Or does a major move depend on the trade package? Well, that all depends on the Knicks and what they might be getting back for a Nick Richards. Because remember, right now, the main reason that New York would even entertain making a trade is because it's obvious to everybody, like it is to me, to you guys, everybody in the NBA. New York needs more bench pieces. We need more depth that Tom Thibodeau is actually going to utilize in a game. And that's why these discussions are going on right now with the Knicks potentially trying to go after Nick Richards. Before I go into more of my take regarding Nick Richards, if he fits this roster and if the Knicks should really go after him, let's break down these latest reports from Evan Cedardy of Sports Illustrated. Shout out to him for giving us this following information here. The Bucks, the Kings, the Knicks, the Lakers, and the Nuggets right now, as well as the Suns, I should say. So the Lakers, the Nuggets, and Suns are among the teams recently expressing trade interest in Nick Richards. We have to remember, Richards is averaging 9.2 points, 7.7 rebounds, and 1.3 blocks per game. The Hornets are open to moving some of their veterans for future draft capital. That is very important to understand there. A number of those teams, the Bucks, the Knicks, the Nuggets, the Suns, what do those teams have in common? All of those teams are contending teams. That means contending teams understand the value of having a backup like Nick Richards on their team. They understand when you need him to play significant minutes, he can do that. 20 plus minutes a game, he can give you that, even more if you need it. He is young. Imagine what he can become under head coach Tom Thibodeau. He would be able to turn into an even better defender than he is right now. Not saying he's a great defender right now, but he'd become an even better defender under head coach Tom Thibodeau, because that's what Thibs teaches you the first day you start on his team. And he makes you try to reduce the fouls you get as well too, because he wants to make sure you stay in the game and you have an impact. But that also begs the question, if you're going after a Nick Richards, what's going to be the cost? What are the Knicks going to have to give up in that particular trade package? Well, CDD gives us that information as well, too. If the Knicks are looking to go after a Vucevic, a Robert Williams III, a Jonas Valanciunas, a Nick Richards, or a Day'Ron Sharpe, they're all currently viewed as the most likely to be moved at the deadline right now. But here's the thing. In terms of moving them, multiple second-round picks is the buzz around probable base compensation alongside necessary salary matching. So that is the key right there. The Knicks at this point in time have a number of second-round picks, their own and the amount that they own from other teams as well too. So they are loaded with a number of second-round picks. If they want to make this deal happen and they want to add more depth to the bench, they can actually make this deal occur, match it dollar for dollar, and get Nick Richards on this team. However, let me break something down really quickly. I think everybody understands my point of view on Nick Richards. I wanted him on this team. I have no problem with him being traded on this team, especially if the trade package is extremely low. If you're telling me all I got to do is match his salary and give you second-round picks, I might entertain that. But here's why I say might. There's one trade that matches it perfectly if the Knicks want to do it. It's Nick Richards for Precious Achiuwa and the couple of second-round picks that we want to throw in there. 2, 3, 4, whatever it has to take, as long as we can get Nick Richards on this team. Now, the math, when you calculate it, when you do all those things, you run the numbers, more or less it makes sense. The Knicks should be able to pull that off and get that trade to happen. Here's the thing, though. If you make that trade, you're trading one bench player that you know will get significant time with Precious Achiuwa for Nick Richards. I'm not saying Nick Richards is bad or anything. He's going to get time. He will be developed, but he has to learn under head coach Tom Thibodeau. He has to understand how to play the Tom Thibodeau way. We saw at the beginning of the season, that doesn't come easy. It takes time. You need to be able to understand how Tom Thibodeau wants you to play, where you need to be, how he wants you to play defense, how the offense is going to run, where they're running plays, who's going to pass you the ball, where you like the ball best. How do you think all of these things get known? It doesn't just happen. You don't snap your fingers and think it occurs that way. You need to build chemistry. So here's the thing. If I'm the Knicks, if I have to trade Precious Achiuwa at this point in time, who makes around, I think it's $6 million at this point, and Nick Richards, who is around $5 million this year, next year, and he's an unrestricted free agent in 2026, 2027. So the Knicks, if they traded for him, would have him on the books for a few years. He's young. He's 27 years old. So clearly we could have him on this team. And maybe if we get him on this team, it would be somebody that we could look to off the bench that could be a legit center for New York. Achiuwa, try as hard as he might. He's 6'8", and really, he's more of a 4 than he is a 5. He said it openly, and the Knicks have said it openly as well, too. Nick Richards is a legit 5. So if you trade for him, you have a legit backup for Karl-Anthony Towns. The problem is, now who's going to back up OG Anunoby? And if Tom Thibodeau, is he going to trust another player to put in there to give them significant time? Because look at the roster we're playing now. 8-man rotation. We have other players he could play. We have other players he can call up from the G League. Jacob Toppin is still over there. Tyler Kolek is still over there. Ariel Huck-Porty is still over there. Bacome Dadier. They're not getting used now. You're telling me they would get used if the Knicks made this type of trade and move? I don't know about that. Because right now you can make the argument we could use a lot of those pieces to give rest to a lot of our starters. So I can't buy the fact that New York, if they made this move for Richards, would be better off the bench because you're substituting one bench player for another. So is there another way to make this deal, to make this trade happen? There is, although some people may not like where I'm going with this. Stay with me for a second before you kill me here. If the Knicks understand Mitchell Robinson doesn't look the same way, he doesn't look right, or they understand he's going to be pushed back again, not going to return late January, early February. Now maybe it's March or April, or they know something, insider information that we don't know, then maybe it's time to make that trade. And if you can hold on to Precious Achiuwa, and again, you can go into the second apron next season in order to re-sign him. So retaining him this season actually is a good thing for New York if you can find impact for him. Clearly, he has an impact. Karl-Anthony Towns and him plays together off the bench. And also, when he's off the floor, Achiuwa can play some 5 as well. But he's not the best 5. We could do better at 5 if we got Nick Richards. but we need to still add more bench pieces to the team that Tom Thibodeau will utilize to expand the rotation. So here's how you do that. Stay with me. But if the Knicks wanted to, they could trade Nick Richards. If the Knicks wanted to, they could trade for Nick Richards and Mikik for Mitchell Robinson and that top 10 protected 2025 first round pick via the Washington Wizards. Now, that is a trade package that might make the most sense for New York, because in this exchange here, yes, you lose out on Mitchell Robinson. But like I said, if the Knicks are making this trade, it's because they know Robinson will not come back healthy. He will not look the same way. And if he's not going to look the same, then maybe it's time to pull the trigger. If the Knicks do this deal, they'll have Nick Richards off the bench, a legit 5. And who do you have backing up OG Anunoby permanently now? Precious Achiuwa. And guess what? Who can play together on the floor? Achiuwa and Nick Richards? Yes, they can. You want to know how I know they can play together on the floor? Because Achiuwa and Karl-Anthony Towns can play together on the floor as well, too. And this way, you still keep a player in Achiuwa that Tom Thibodeau trusts. He actively gives minutes to. He plays for backup minutes. He plays for backup minutes after OG Anunoby needs to get out and needs a break in the game. So clearly, he's okay with doing that. Clearly, the Knicks see Precious Achiuwa as a 4. So clearly, if you're going to add another player to this team and you can retain talent and you're not going to break the bank, and mind you, Mitchell Robinson and that Washington Wizards pick, that Wizards pick that's never going to convey, it's never going to mean anything. If the Knicks can do this, if they can pull off this trade for Mitchell Robinson and this Washington Wizards pick for Nick Richards and Mikik, I would absolutely do it, especially if they know that Mitchell Robinson will never come back healthy or he's not looking the same. Why not make the move? This is going to help the Knicks moving forward, especially as we push for that playoff push and we try to get to that championship level. Try to get to the NBA championship, because that's the goal. And we have to add players that help us get to that goal. Now, with Mikik, he's a veteran guard. Do we need him? No. The only reason we would get him is because we want to make the money work. But guess what? He's an expiring contract. We waive him after the season, and then we're able to sign more players in the offseason. And if you're still wondering about the G League and getting some of those players, it's not like we can't trade Jericho Sims later on for a couple of second-round picks and then call up a Moses Brown or a Chuma Okeke or a TJ Warren, and stick tuned for the rest of the show, because during the show, I'm going to tell you what player is most likely going to join the Knicks from the G League Westchester team. So stick around for that. But regards to Nick Richards, like I said before, if the Knicks are going to make this move, this is the trade to do. Now, don't look at that stat real quick. I don't want you to take a look at that, because those stats right there are for Nick Richards and Precious Achiuwa. And that's why I'm going to argue why the Knicks shouldn't make that trade if Achiuwa is involved. Now, I see the guys in the super chats. I understand what you guys are saying here. I promise you, I'm going to get to all of your super chats in a second. I just got to cover this particular topic. So, Yuri, I see you, my guy, and I appreciate you. I promise you, we're going to get to your super chat. But here's whyculture.org, who created this particular trade scenario here, states why the Knicks should do this trade and pull off this move. According to them, the Knicks are in win-now mode and need a dependable backup center behind the foul-prone Karl-Anthony Towns. Neither Mitchell Robinson nor Precious Achiuwa have proven to be the answer for a team with title aspirations. I'm going to try this name, so please forgive me. Vasilij Micic, a veteran guard whose contract is essentially expiring due to a team option next season, provides the Knicks with an additional roster depth this year while also offering financial flexibility moving forward. Richards went to high school in New York, has close ties to Knicks president of basketball operations, Leon Rose, giving the Knicks a solid chance to re-sign him in 2026. So Richards has ties to Leon Rose, gives the Knicks another chance to re-sign him. He's on a very good friendly contract. He gives you that backup center that we've needed all season long. He plays defense, gets you rebounds, and has an offensive game. And under Tom Thibodeau, he's going to get better. You can play him and Karl-Anthony Towns together. You can play him and Precious Achiuwa together. And that is the best part. You don't lose rotations. You gain them. You don't take any weaknesses. You don't gain any disadvantages. You get help. You get more players you can use and that you trust. You expand the rotation, meaning you rest the starters, you play more of the bench, you develop the bench, and that's what you need heading into the postseason. A developed starting unit and a bench that you trust. If the Knicks make this trade, it tells you without a doubt Mitchell Robinson is not healthy, will never be healthy, and has taken a step back in his rehab. Remember, the only updates we have on Robinson right now is that he has been running, but not fully sprinting yet. So if he's not been cleared to fully sprint, we don't know when he's going to be cleared for that, eventually practice, contact, and all of those hurdles. We don't know if he's taken a step back yet. All of those things might be answered after the trade deadline. But right now, any setback news for Mitchell Robinson, I don't feel like the Knicks are going to give us that information, because why would they? They're probably entertaining a lot of trade calls right now. There's also a possibility that this particular report here could be smoke. And there's a reason for that. The reason it could be smoke is, who is that putting pressure on? The Knicks know if tanking teams are there, because only tanking teams would like Mitchell Robinson. That's his value asset right now. That's how most teams view him, a tank move. So that means you're looking at who? The Charlotte Hornets and any guesses? Washington Wizards. That pick, if it doesn't convey, and by the way, it will never convey, it turns into multiple second-round picks. So it works out for Charlotte either way, but it also works out for the Wizards if they get that pick back, and then they can be able to trade it if they want to in trade negotiations. Remember, that is the key there for the Knicks right now in terms of trying to entice them to bite on a trade that might be a little bit less alluring or less desirable than other packages out there for maybe a Nick Richards or maybe for a Jonas Valanciunas. And again, the Knicks could be using this on both teams. The interest is there for Jonas as much as it's there for Nick Richards. So maybe they're putting pressure on both teams. They could also be doing and saying, maybe we're trying to read the situation, see what's happening, and then make a decision when we see what's happening with Mitchell Robinson. The closer he gets, the healthier he gets, and where he is in his rehab. The Knicks could be doing a lot of things right now, but clearly the interest is there. The interest has been there. He has ties to Leon Rose. We have a good chance in re-signing him. And if the Knicks are able to flip Mitchell Robinson for Nick Richards, it really gives you the exact bench you need. A legit five, Nick Richards, and a legit 4, Precious Achiuwa. That means you get to rest your starting lineup. You get to play your bench. Everybody wins. Everybody rests. Nobody's tired. People get developed. And that's the team you can move forward with. Now, listen, am I advocating for New York to actively go out there and trade Mitchell Robinson? No, I'm not. I've said it a number of times here. It's probably going to be missed, but I'll say it again. If the Knicks know or they have inside information that Mitchell Robinson's not going to return right on at the end of January, early February, April, whatever the case may be, maybe they know his return is pushed back. If that's the case, I have no problem with them making this trade. If they make this move, then that tells me Mitchell Robinson is not healthy and will not be healthy. Another thing to look at here is those box number scores that I have there. Those box stats, if you will. The blue one, or the bright blue one, the royal blue one, is Precious Achiuwa. And the other greenish tint one is Charlotte Hornets, Nick Richards. Now, there's a reason I have that one out there. Precious Achiuwa is 25. Nick Richards is 27. Precious Achiuwa is 6'8". Nick Richards is 7 feet tall. Look at their minutes. Precious Achiuwa plays 18.8 minutes per game. Nick Richards, 21.2. 21.2. Look at the true shooting. Precious Achiuwa, 52.4 from the free throw line, and the true shooting is 56.3. With Richards, it's 67.8 from the free throw line, and true shooting is 61.7. Very, very similar. So why would I trade a player who is giving me similar numbers to a player I want to trade for when I can have them both and I can re-sign them both? One with Achiuwa because I can go in the second apron to re-sign him, and Nick Richards because he has ties to our team president in Leon Rose. This is the move to make if the Knicks are going to make a trade. Because for me, I've always wanted Nick Richards. I thought Jonas Valanciunas made the most sense because I thought it was the most affordable trade, and I thought that trade would make sense to Washington. I never thought in my wildest dreams that the Hornets would think that this Washington pick would be desirable. But if they also think that this pick is something worthwhile because it turns into some second round picks later on, and they're okay with even getting those picks because they want some value for Richards, I have no problem with New York making this deal. The only issue is other teams will have a problem with New York making this deal, because if this is all it's going to take, Robinson and a heavily protected first round pick from the Wizards to get this player on this team, then I'm sure a number of other teams in the league are going to try to go out and get him as well too, and probably throw out bigger and better trade packages at that point as well too. If that happens, the Knicks may be priced out and they'll have to look elsewhere and go to a different name. That might be the Knicks' plan here, to make that Richards trade be impossible for some teams to get, so that way they have to turn to Jonas Valanciunas. Leon Rose in this Knicks front office. The one thing I've always known about them is never underestimate them and never say a move is off the table. Maybe it's off the table for us or some other insiders, some other people. But for the Knicks, nothing is ever off the table, and never say never. Leon has gotten us players nobody ever thought possible, from teams nobody ever thought likely. Since he can do that, I think he can pull off magic to make a trade happen for an impactful player, even if we have limited assets. Whether that player is Nick Richards or Jonas Valanciunas, that's anybody's guess. If I had to pick, it would be Nick Richards given his age, and also if we could get him for a similar trade package to Jonas Valanciunas, absolutely. There's no contest. He's younger, he costs less, and we could re-sign him later on, and he could still stick with this team because he fits the age timeline. So I would do that if it's available and on the table. But again, other qualifiers there. Before we continue and go into some other reports that we have here, but we do have other things to talk about today during today's show, I want to go to the chat gang. We had some super chats that I missed. I want to go to that, and I want to get some of your comments regarding this trade and if you guys would do it. So let's go to that real quick. Get some of you guys' opinion here. I apologize for not doing that earlier. I know some of you guys gave me some of those super chats. I don't want to leave you guys hanging. So I think we have it on screen here, right? Perfect, we do. Okay, so Dimitri, $2 super chat. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. He says, hello, the Knicks Recap. Thank you for your shows. Hey, man, I appreciate you. I try to do it all for the community. And if you guys enjoy it, that's all that matters to me. Yuri, $1.99 super chat. I appreciate you. And he's also a moderator and a member. You can't be more committed than that. I really appreciate my guy over here. He says, man, what news to wake up to? No trade. Keep Mitch. So another guy there, you see? He wants to keep Mitchell Robinson. Without further ado, let's go into the live chat and see what you guys have to say. Maybe you guys agree. Maybe you guys don't agree. I want to see what your thoughts are regarding Nick Richards and if the Knicks should go after him. So let's see what we have here. We have Nostalgia Nick saying Richards will be a Knick. Nostalgia Nick says yes. Trading Precious will save the Knicks money to pay TJ as well. Now, listen, I understand that. I'm not saying that the Knicks potentially can't save money that way. But listen to this. They can also save money if they make this trade and get off of Jericho Sims. If you're worried about going after TJ Warren or the Westchester players, trust me, when I break it down in a few minutes and I go to that particular roster and who the Knicks are going to go after, if they want to sign one of those players, all they have to do is get rid of Jericho Sims. If they trade away Jericho Sims, they trade Jericho Sims to another team, and they get only second round picks for him, they can still free up a lot of space and be able to sign another player to this team. Now, maybe they're going to have to wait a few weeks because obviously with the prorated salaries, they're going to have to wait till the salary gets low enough for them to be able to sign one of these players from Westchester. But I still think it's possible. It absolutely is. You don't lose that ability by trading off a Robinson. I just want to make that clear. Chris says, so another no source based video. So that's what Chris is saying here. I didn't give a source. I'm pretty sure Evan Cedardy from Sports Illustrated is a source. And he's stating here that the Bucks, the Kings, the Knicks, the Lakers, the Nuggets, and the Suns are among the teams recently expressing trade interest in Nick Richards. And this is not the first time I've quoted him. I've quoted it a number of times as well, too. I also want to mention the Knicks and Nick Richards have been linked at the hip since the offseason. I've done reports and videos on that as well, too. And even with the active reports we have here from culture.org, they just reported too. And we've known this as well. He has ties to New York. He has ties to Leon Rose. So that's also other sources there that tell you that these things are linked, that the Knicks are having active discussions with the Hornets trying to make this trade happen. Now, am I saying that is the trade going to happen? I'm not saying that. Am I saying this potential discussion could be smoke? It could be. I'm acknowledging that. But you got to remember, reports are reports. So if you're telling me I should only go after reports that are absolutely official and absolutely 100%, there would never be a channel. I wouldn't have any information or content. So if you're telling me there's no sources, you have to go back and check the information because clearly you're not watching the videos. But I appreciate you. And I appreciate you giving me some feedback because, again, I don't mind going back and forth, but this is what we got to talk about if we're going to go back and forth. Let's see here. Wesley says, trade Sims for Whitmore, Mitch for Richards, and Josh Green. I don't know about that. And I don't think you're going to be able to get Whitmore for Richards and Josh Green because remember, you got to match salary for salary, dollar for dollar. That's why the trades the Knicks have to do right now have to be very creative. Whether it's with the Hornets or whether it's with the Wizards, you have to be key with that. Let's see here. My 2 cents says OKC game will say a ton. OKC coming off of that Cavs loss, and they're going into MSG. You're absolutely right. I said it to start the show. I am so hyped for this OKC game. We get to make a statement, get back on the right track, and also let everybody know that we're not playing around this year. People think that we're going to skip this year, that this year is pretend. We get to show them we get to show them that we're for real, that we're legit here. So that's what we're trying to do. Yuri says, if Leon can pull off this trade and bring back Dante to New York and somehow, some way, he's likely talking about next season because they can't do it this season, build this man a statue. I got to agree with you. If they can get Dante at some point in time next season or the season after that, whatever the case may be, and they can pull off a trade like this right now for Nick Richards, yeah, we might have to build Leon Rose a statue because it's almost impossible to think you can flip assets like this, devaluing assets at that, because Robinson is seen as a tank move around the league. To be able to flip him for a younger center who's available and active, that's almost impossible to think about. So clearly, a good point there as well. Nostalgia Nick says Cat is dropping 50. Maybe he is. He needs to. Because guess what? With Cat this season, what I need to see is MVP Cat. If I'm not seeing MVP Cat, we have a very big problem. MVP Cat is going to call us. MVP Cat is going to cause us a lot of issues. So we have to make sure we're taking notice, and we have to make sure MVP Cat is right up there with MVP SGA. I need to see that battle. We didn't see it last time. I want to see it this time. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to drink some water real quick. Okay. Last comment we're going to do before we go right to the next topic, which is going to be what players are the most likely going to be called up and added to this team from Westchester. Let's go to Optimus 2G, a very big fan of the show. Seen him in the chat a lot of times. He says, Brock Aller makes deals on the margins that many can't, but he may not be able to do that until the offseason. Now, that is a very, very good comment, and I appreciate you giving it to me. Now, we did mention that the Knicks, hard cap right now. They can't make a lot of trades. Does that mean they can't make trades? No. They can make trades. I just told you how they can make a trade for Nick Richards, for Jonas Valanciunas. There's a number of ways to do it. There's a number of ways to do it. However, he is right when he says that Brock Aller is one of the best in terms of capologists to play the margins, make sure we're perfect in cap, and also make sure we're making the moves we need to make. But there's only so much he can push it. Are we limited in that? Are we limited to that extent with our cap this season? We are to an extent. However, this front office and Leon Rose, they've proven to work magic even when we never thought it possible before. So if they were able to do that before, I think they're still going to be able to do that again. It's more likely that a move is made and a trade is made in the offseason, especially a major move. But a minor move or even a mid-level move, I can see that happening by the deadline, and I can see Leon Rose in this front office making a move nobody expected. Talking about moves that nobody expected, I don't think a lot of people expected our Westchester team to be as good as they are this year, but they are very, very good. Won their winter showcase again for the second year in a row. We saw a lot of different Knicks players go off. Tyler Kolek, Moses Brown, TJ Warren. I mean, the list goes on and on. Those guys, if they came up to this team, I think a lot of what they did in the G League would be translatable, because the steals, the way you play defense, the way you hound players, the way you get block shots and go after rebounds, those things are instincts. You do it because you know the game. You read the game. And under Tom Thibodeau, you would only get better. So that really begs the question from a lot of fans. What player is most likely going to be added from the Westchester team to the main roster? And that question has been going through my mind for a lot of weeks now. I've been going back and forth. TJ Warren has been a name. Chuma Okeke has been a name. And obviously, Moses Brown has been a name. And Sports Illustrated and Steph Bondy as well, too, has went through the exact same thing. And with them, they came up with the following evaluation for the Westchester Knicks. And they had some help with a Westchester G League expert in terms of evaluating these players on the Knicks Westchester G League team. Let's take a look at what they had to say about these guys, and also what player is most likely going to be called up to the Knicks. Oop, wrong slide there. Let's go. Shout out to Steph Bondy for giving us the following information here regarding what players are likely going to be called up to the main roster. And according to him, TJ Warren is probably the player you're going to look at the most. Here's what he had to say about Warren. Easily the best player and scorer. I worry about his defense with Thibs. I don't see another player down there that Thibs would look at. Very, very interesting information there about TJ Warren. And something to mention about Warren right now. He is on an absolute tear in Westchester. Not only can he score, he can also rebound the ball. I think he's averaging 6.8 rebounds a game as well, too. And remember, at his size, with his health issues, we didn't think he can get back to scoring like this, to playing like this, to defending like this. So I can understand why TJ Warren would be at the top of, why TJ Warren would be at the top of the list for most teams, including the Knicks. If the Knicks have the opportunity to sign him to this team, I wouldn't mind it. The only issue is he's a very good scorer. So that means if I add him on the bench, I need to let him do what he does best, and that's score. Is Tom Thibodeau going to allow him to score? Is he going to give him those opportunities? Is he going to play him enough minutes to get those type of looks, to get those type of shots, and to be able to have the same impact? Those are all the questions that I have. And that's why, personally, for me, even though I hear what the expert Westchester G League evaluator is saying here, and I understand TJ Warren in terms of the numbers, in terms of what he's doing in the G League, it makes a lot of sense why he should be added to this team, to the main roster. But if he's not going to get the same type of opportunities, if he's not going to be able to score the same way, I might have to look at some other players that might give you more size, a little bit younger, and give you better two-way play. And if you're looking at some other players, I mean, I've been a fan of this kid for a while, and a lot of people have not liked that I've been a fan of this kid for a while. But you guys know who I'm talking about, right? Moses Brown. Let's talk about him a little bit. An incredible study. He can't figure out which hand to play with. He's a righty. His left hand is smooth. His right hand is broken. So now he's trying to get everything with his left hand. Wonder if his body will hold up, but a good G League center. Moses Brown, I mean, he's the biggest project of them all. Been in the NBA, been to a number of teams. Clearly, the beginning of his career, didn't have it. Was not really that in shape. Not playing great in pace, didn't look for the ball as well, but he's developed well over the years. His body and his look has gotten a lot better. He's gotten more in shape. His rebounds, his blocks, a lot better. Focuses on the ball a lot better. Pace, still slow. Is he athletic? No. But what he has learned is to play with his skill set. Understand what he does well and focus just on that. Maybe he's not the fastest, but you know what he can do well? Stick his foot into the ground and jump and block your shot. Get those offensive rebounds. Get whatever rebounds you need and clean up the glass. Make sure he's a threat offensively. I think he still has room to grow and operate. He's probably a late bloomer. That's why I think under Tom Thibodeau, you could get a real good classic center in Moses Brown and maybe somebody you can look at for availability. If the Knicks want more size and they're not going to make a trade, or they trade off of Jericho Sims for some second-round picks and they need more size on the roster, this is the player to get. Automatically, he gives you more size. Now, if you ask me, is he the best player out of every player out of Westchester? He's not. Not to me. He's a good fit for the Knicks, though, but he's not the best player that I would want to add. We're going to get there, but let's break down some more evaluations here. Pacome Dadier. He's not been great in the G League from what I've seen. Big kid, and he's young. Did anybody expect anything different? Young rookie? Of course. He didn't even get that much significant playing time with the main roster. He's still young. I expect him to struggle. I want him to struggle. Get it out of your system now, because when you get to the main team, when you get to the bench, you're not going to be able to struggle like that. You're going to need to be able to lock in and work on your two-way play. But even though this evaluator is not going to give him credit, Sports Illustrated did give him credit. Even though this evaluator didn't give him credit, Sports Illustrated did give him credit. And they did so by giving him the following information and the following praise. Let's break down what they said about him. He'll be good. He's a hard worker, always trying to get better physically and mentally. But you know how it is. He's a rookie, man. Sometimes you just got to develop. Bide your time, and when the opportunity comes, you seize it. You know who said that? According to Sports Illustrated, who gave us this information from Posting and Toasting, it was Josh Hart. Josh Hart gave him the following praise, that he just got to develop and bide his time, but he's working all the time, working to get better physically and mentally. And he says as well, too, obviously, it's tough because you're relying on guys that haven't been there before, so you don't know how they're going to be. So it's all part of the process. When he gets his opportunities, he's going to go out there and he's going to use them. Dadier has spent most of his time in the G League with the Westchester Knicks, and Coach Tom Thibodeau believes that that's the best place for him to be right now. What the G League does is give Pacome an opportunity to get minutes. Thibodeau said, study, prepare, and keep getting better. So I know a lot of people think that maybe he fell out of favor. Maybe he's not as well liked by Tom Thibodeau or the coaching staff. And it's ridiculous to think that. You know why he's not playing as much anymore? You know why he's not playing as much anymore? It's because we got healthier. Tom Thibodeau continues to limit and contain his rotation to 8 players. So if he's not going to get any play with the main team, he's going to go down to Westchester and he's going to have to play there. But when you're getting this level of praise from players like Josh Hart, talk about two-way excellence. Talk about a player who does everything. If he's saying physically and mentally he's doing what he needs to do, he's staying prepared, and Tom Thibodeau is also giving him praise and saying right now that's where he needs to be. He needs to stay in the G League, get ready, stay ready, study, and continue to prepare. I'm going to go ahead and agree with him to some level. I'm going to agree that that's where he needs to be if he's not going to get any playing time. That's where we agree. Where we disagree is, why is he not getting any playing time? Especially when we need some more players on this team that can play defense and give you that three-point shot. Pacome, we've seen him even early on. He's a good two-way player and likely going to get better each and every year of his career because he plays good defense and he also has that three ball. In the corner, he's becoming automatic. We have to give that to him because even though we're going to call some things out about him, the fact that he's young, inexperienced, and sometimes on defense he gets beat, we also have to talk about what he does right, all the things that he's gotten better at, what he's developed at. And I think that's what Pacome and this Knicks team, that's why I don't think he's ever going to be traded. That's why I think he's going to be a Knicks player of the future, going to be a bench player of the future, because he does a lot of things right now that Tom Thibodeau is going to look for off the bench, maybe even next year or the year after that. And Pacome, he's going to have to make a good case for himself. The only way to do that is to continue to develop. I do think that some cases in some games, he could be played. But as of right now, that's not going to happen. He's going to stick with the G League. Let's keep it going here. Not really a lot to talk about here with Jacob Toppin. Jacob Toppin, the only thing they want to say about him is that he's hot and he's cold. That's it. And unfortunately, that's the best way to talk about him. I hate to say it, but I mean, in the G League, he can't be stopped. In the regular NBA, I don't know who he turns into. He just can't seem to find the same flow or rhythm or be able to do the same thing with the minutes that he's given. Although he doesn't play a lot, plays sporadically, is never given consistent minutes, so it's really hard to prepare for those type of moments. Even though you could argue you got to stay ready. It doesn't matter. You must stay ready because your opportunity could come at any given time. And when it comes, you need to be able to play. I understand that, but even at the same time, it's hard to get into rhythm when you do not play. And Jacob Toppin, the reason he's hot and cold, in my opinion, is because he plays consistently with Westchester and he doesn't play consistently with the Knicks. So that's why you're seeing all of that there. But those players, again, they're not the players that I would add to this team. A lot of those players we talked about, specifically Moses Brown and TJ Warren, I would love to have them on this roster. I would love to add them to this team, but only if we're not able to add one other player. Maybe you guys know who I'm talking about. Maybe you guys don't know who I'm talking about. It's Chuma Okeke, a very interesting player according to this evaluator. You don't notice him, and then when you look up, he has a near triple-double. He plays the right way. A bit out of shape still somehow, but still plays the right way and also never takes away from any other player. What do you want right now? Don't you want a player to come in, somebody who can give you an impact where you need it, but not take away from Josh Hart, not take away from Mikal or OG or Deuce McBride or Campaign. Just give you the help where you need it. Chuma Okeke, by far, apart from all of the players we named, each and every single one of those players, even one of my favorites in Moses Brown, Chuma is the one that I would go after and I would add to this team more than anybody else. As you heard there, the evaluator, according to them and according to Steph Bondi, the person that they stated that makes the most sense for this team is TJ Warren. I understand why, if the Knicks go in that direction, I would have no problem with it at all. And if the Knicks want to do that, I'm cool with it. But I already told you, the reason I wouldn't want that to happen is because I don't think he's going to get the same type of touches with this team as he does with Westchester. With Moses Brown, I like him. I like his two-way play. But if we're only going for two-way play and also giving you just a little bit more, Chuma Okeke does all of that. He gives you defense. He gives you offense. He can shoot the three ball. He can play defense inside and outside. He's a triple-double threat every time he's on the floor and given significant time. That's why out of all of the players, out of all of the guys on the G League Westchester Knicks right now, for me, Chuma Okeke is the guy the Knicks should go after, add, and keep on this team. And if the Knicks want to go a different direction, Moses Brown, I'm okay with that. TJ Warren, I'm okay with that. Clearly, the evaluator is okay with that because according to him, out of all the players in Westchester, he doesn't see any other player that Tom Thibodeau would even TJ Warren. So for the TJ Warren fans, you can celebrate, you can be happy, you can scream at the top of your lungs because if the Knicks do want to make a move, it might be TJ Warren. But I hope they'll reevaluate that decision and maybe pivot and go to Okeke because I think if he's added to this team, the impact he would have would be phenomenal if they're able to play him. That's the biggest thing there. They have to be able to do that. And I think personally, they will do that. Only a matter of time. And I hope the Knicks are able to pull that off. Westchester Knicks, they're doing so well right now. And I hope they continue to do well. They need to. Give me 1 second here, guys. I think my stream with YouTube is causing some issues. Give me 1 second to kind of fix that up here for you. All right. Give me 1 second here, guys. Want to make sure I'm not freezing here. Okay, there we go. Want to make sure I'm good and all here because my YouTube at times says that things are off whack or off working. So just want to make sure everything is good. I appreciate it. Okay, like we were talking about there before with the evaluations, like I said, for me, it has to be without a doubt. it has to be Chuma Okeke that the Knicks go after because he adds everything to this team that the Knicks would need, especially off the bench. So hopefully that's a direction that they go in, but we're going to have to wait and see when the Knicks are going to be able to add that player. Maybe they do it after they make a trade. Maybe they don't do it even at that point in time. Maybe they wait to make that trade happen. They look at some other things that they can do. Maybe they trade instead Jericho Sims, not for a player, but for picks. And then they go to the buyout market or to the Westchester Knicks and add players like that. Remember, there are different ways the Knicks can do it, but we're likely going to have to wait until Leon Rose understands where the status of his players are before he makes those moves. But it's very interesting to understand that. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, and it probably doesn't get said a lot, so I do want to mention it here. Let me make sure this is the right slide, though. Yeah, okay, sorry. Just want to make sure I was in the right area there. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, another topic I wanted to talk about today. Maybe you guys have noticed the absence on the bench, because I have. Deuce McBride. Where's Deuce? What happened to Deuce? He goes to practice, warming up. Jalen Brunson not going to be able to start one game. He's warming up to start. And then magically, mysterious injury, Deuce McBride. He's no longer there. No longer here. Where did Deuce go? I can't find Deuce. Deuce is not there anymore. Oh, yeah, I know why. Because for some mysterious reason, he injured his hamstring. And he's been out for the last several games. And honestly, it's hurt the Knicks. Because Landry Shamet has been utilized a lot more. But when he was starting to get utilized more, returning to the rotation, we just lost Deuce McBride. Potentially a player that would give Tom Thibodeau a reason to push the lineup to 9 players. And if that happens, then maybe you see Mikal Bridges and 4 players off the bench that Tom Thibodeau trusts. The bench lineup that I've wanted to see from the beginning of the season. Maybe that's something that you see. But honestly, we haven't seen a lot from Deuce McBride. We have no idea where he is, if he's going to return, how bad that injury has been, and what's keeping him out. But thankfully to Steph Bondy, he recently gave us an update after speaking with McBride about that injury, where he is, how it happened, and if it's serious or not. So let's break down what Steph Bondy had to say with regards to McBride and that injury. According to Steph Bondy, when speaking to McBride, he gave us the following information about that hamstring. Just seeing how it feels. It's tough with hamstrings. Those type of injuries, you don't want to rush it, but I'm progressing. The Knicks could certainly use McBride, their most reliable reserve and only real minutes eater off the bench, especially tonight against OKC. We could definitely use him in this game. We need him, and hopefully we're able to get him. Deuce says right now, it's just been taking it slow, just doing a little bit more of manual work and just trying to really give it a little bit more time. McBride sustained the injury while warming up for the Wednesday's contest against the Jazz last week. He was slated to start the matchup because Jalen Brunson was scratched. Jalen Brunson was scratched in the morning because of calf soreness. I just got going and I felt just my hamstring grab and I didn't know what happened. And I went back. I tried to figure out what happened, and it just hurt. That's according to Deuce McBride after the initial injury, and when he was speaking first to the media regarding what happened to the hamstring, how it felt, if it was serious or anything like that or not. So that's what we've seen so far, and at least in terms of the latest updates that we have from McBride, this is what we've heard thus far. It's not according to McBride, it's super frustrating. Nobody ever wants to be hurt, and especially on a night you get a chance to start. Super frustrating, but it's all part of it. Just got to bounce back. James Edwards said recently about McBride, and this is coming from Thibodeau here, on McBride, when he feels good enough, he'll go. He's working, and they're being cautious with him. So clearly there's a plan in place. It's a hamstring injury. We all know about that. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm drinking a little bit of water. Appreciate that, guys. So yeah, as I'm seeing in the comments here, people are asking, is it a freak accident? It basically is a freak accident because as they were saying there, he was basically working out, didn't really understand what was going on, and then he felt something pull in his hamstring. He grabbed at it, felt a little bit weird, went back to the training room, didn't know what happened, and then was ruled out and has been ruled out ever since because it's been a very mysterious and weird injury. And because it's the hamstring, they don't want to risk it. They want to make sure he's 100% before he returns. Honestly, though, he's been a game time decision for these last couple of games. The fact that he's been a game time decision these last games, that has to tell me he's close, because he wouldn't be a game time decision if he was close. They would just rule him out. So I think they have been waiting to play him again against OKC. He might have been able to play the other game, but he really didn't have to play that game with Karl Anthony Towns returning, and we didn't want to risk more injury at that point. So hopefully we get Deuce back. If he's warming up before games, if he's doing everything to prepare and get ready, I think it's only a matter of time before he returns. The good news here is that it's not sounding like it's severe. It sounds like he's going to return very soon, and that's what the Knicks need. More depth pieces off the bench that Tom Thibodeau will use. But it is something to watch because it's a hamstring injury. It really came out of nowhere. Nobody even knows how it happened. Honestly, it does sound like a freak injury, but it's it does sound like a freak injury, but it's something that you have to go through with and move forward with each and every single night that you play the game, because you never know from a night-to-night basis what's going to happen. And in warm-ups, in other type of situations, everything can happen. So that's something we have to think about here as we move forward. And I have to make sure everybody understands that. Something else to understand and look at here, because I want to go to the chat, gang. I do want to see what you guys have to say. I want to speak to you guys about the topics that we just spoke about, not only about the game tonight with OKC, not only with the G Leaguers as well, too, and what potential players are going to come up in Deuce McBride's injuries, but all the other things that we're going to discuss. One other thing before we go to the chat, gang, because I do want to mention it. It's been in my head for so long right now. It has to do with Mitchell Robinson. Now, I've been dropping videos about Mitch, I think probably more than most people. That's because there's been a lot of updates about Mitch. We had a lot of insiders talk about Mitchell Robinson, how he's doing, where he is, where Mitchell Robinson is in his rehab, when he's going to return. So because we're getting all that feedback and we get that information, we drop videos about it. We drop a lot of videos about it. We report a lot of things. We were one of the first channel to report that the league viewed Mitchell Robinson as a tank move, a move around the league that you would only pull off if you were looking to basically lose, if you were looking to have one of the worst records in the league. Now, I don't know if Mitchell Robinson heard that or heard other backlash or other negativity, but he fired back at a lot of fans about the injury that he had. And I want to go really quickly to what he had to say in a tweet. Let me see where that is actually. There he goes, right there. Apologies. So Mitchell Robinson, as you can see there, he states in a tweet, "It's so amazing that y'all know what happened and still fault me, but wonder why I act the way I act. I love y'all though." And he gives you a little bit of a heart emoji sign there. Mitchell Robinson clearly firing back at fans because obviously fans are questioning where he is, why he hasn't returned, what's happening with the rehab, why hasn't he been part of the team yet? And he sees all of that. He sees all the negativity. And for him, all he can do is say, I can't believe you guys are saying that, when you know that Joel Embiid, essentially it's what I'm reading here, you know that Joel Embiid pulled my leg down, hurt my knee, and that's the reason that I'm out right now. And if it wasn't for Joel, I wouldn't be out. Now, he might have a point there, guys. I can't lie to you. He might have a point in regards to firing back at the fans. Because if you're doing everything that you can to return and come back, the last thing you want to hear from the fans is, oh, he's not doing what he needs to do. He's not trying to come back. He wants to stay out. The Knicks are wanting to hold him back until the postseason. I'm sure he sees all of that and gets frustrated because I'm sure he wants to come back. He wants to play as soon as possible. But I don't think the Knicks really want to play him as fast as they possibly can because they're cautious. They don't want to put him out there and have him risk injury right away. So clearly they're holding him back. There's a level to that. We know they're trying to do that. They're not going to rush Mitchell Robinson back. So it's frustrating when you think that fans should know your dilemma, know what you're going through, but not give you any grace. I think that's true to an extent. It's true. Fans should know what you're going through. But as a fan, it's also okay to fan and question where you are, why you're not with the team. I know that you've been rehabbing for a while. You've been rehabbing for a very long time. So fans are obviously going to have questions about where you are, why you haven't returned yet, why your return date keeps getting pushed back. And if we knew it was going to be January or February before, why not say that before? There's a lot of things that we can talk about fans with, we can go back and forth with the fans with, and I get it. But part of being a fan is these type of moments when you question what's happening with your team, when you're wondering when you're going to get back to full strength, what this team's going to look like when you're full strength, and how it all is going to look together, how the practices are going to look together, if the chemistry is going to look right, how long is that going to take to look right, if it's going to snap together, if he's going to play consistently or not, if the injuries are going to hold him back. You want to know why fans have those questions? It's because they exist. It's not because we want to throw them out there. It's because they exist because we don't see you. When we don't see you, we don't see how you are, your progress. We barely see you talk to the media. You don't say anything. We have to go by what we see, what we hear, and what gets reported. And that's why those things are going to come out. So I understand to an extent wanting people to understand why you are where you are, and people should give you a little bit more grace. But I also think the other side of that is true as well, too. You also have to understand that while we have to give you grace, you have to give us grace. As fans, we want the best for our team. We know if you were healthy right now, you would be able to dominate inside or at least give us a different rotation that we haven't seen. So can you blame a lot of fans for wanting you to be healthy and part of this team? Can you blame a lot of fans for not really talking about the Embiid thing, but looking at your past and looking at all of the other injuries that you had? There's a number of things to look at here with Robinson. It's not one Joel Embiid knee pull. If it was just that, we wouldn't be talking about anything. It's more than that. He's been injury prone throughout his entire career. Maybe this time around he has a reason for it more than the other times around, but it's still part of the same things that we always see. And even though he has a reason for it, does that reason give us more wins? Does it help us more? Does it make us a better team magically? It doesn't. And that's why we have to call it like it is sometimes. I understand where Mitch is coming from. Trust me, I do. But I also think you have to give some type of leeway here to the fans. They have the right as fans to be critical when they don't see you, when they don't hear from you, when they hear no updates about you. I think it's fair, but that's just me. Before I go to the chat, let me know in the chat, guys, what you guys think. Do you guys agree with me? Do you think it's okay to give fans a little bit of leeway to be critical of players or things that we see? Because again, it's not like we hate the team. We just want to see better. Or do you think that we should always be understanding, always think that, you know what, give him the benefit of the doubt. He would be here if his leg didn't get pulled and anything like that. Do you think we should be on that level? Let me know in the chat, because honestly, I'd love to see what you guys would say about this. Where are you guys on the fence in terms of being a fan, being critical, and when it's too critical, when you've crossed the line? I would love to see where you guys are on that. If you're watching the playback or you're in the chat gang now, leave that comment right now. Let me know, guys, how you feel, because I really do want to know about this topic specifically, where you guys are. Before we go to our last topic, and I believe our last topic for today, if I am not mistaken, I want to make sure I hit all the topics that I was supposed to hit today. I believe I did. Yeah, so the only topic that we have left to do today would be, I believe it's going to be Mikal Bridges. So that's the last topic we're going to discuss today. Before we get to that, though, I want to go to the chat gang and see what you guys have to say. So let's jump into you guys really quick. Cody says Embiid should have been fined and suspended, but that's on the league. Cody's not wrong for that. Let's see here. Nick Yak says Mitch at 19 without college. Didn't play early rookie season, wasn't hurt. Second year, COVID, 66 games season. Mitch missed 5 games, played 61. And his 72 game season, missed 10. That's 15 total in 3 years. Yeah, but you're going to have to total it all up in totality over the years, because that's how it works. When we need you, are you there? That's how that works. Optimus 2G says Joey Crawford, Mike Callahan, and Ed Malloy are also from the Philly suburbs. Optimus also says the NBA has major beef with the Knicks too, dudes. I can't lie with that. I mean, sometimes I think we've seen it some courses, some stretches of this season where the NBA doesn't look like they want to be fair with the Knicks. They're a little bit against the Knicks. We've seen that a couple of times. I'm not going to lie about that. Yuri says, yes, 100%. I do agree. I feel like we are being too critical on him. This was Joel Embiid's deal, and I get he's been injured in the past, but I feel like us fans want him back because we can really use him. Not a bad point. Not a bad point there. I appreciate you. On Dio says, hit that like, subscribe to the channel, and enjoy the show. Hey, my guy, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Optimus says, remember, there's the Toronto fiasco with the lawsuit, the regional network thing, Dolan's resignation from the finance committee, and the cap stuff with Aller. He's right with that. I can't deny you, Optimus. You're right with that. There are a lot of issues going around right now with the NBA. Maybe the Knicks are being looked at twice by the NBA. Can't lie to you there. I've seen a number of fouls against Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson. Those haven't been called, so I can understand where you're coming from there. I appreciate the level of information as well, too. Brianna says, not to mention, I hate Joel Embiid. So clearly, she also agrees with Robinson. Listen, I'm okay with that. I'm okay if you... Oh, we have KG as well here, too. KG, 199 as well, too. I appreciate you. He says, KG, you're in the Matrix, Troy. You're glitching hard. Really? Am I glitching hard? I don't know why. I appreciate the super chat, and I thank you guys for letting me know that the stream is glitching a little bit hard. I don't know why that's happening here, because on my end, it sounds like things are going correctly or right. What I'll do next time around or next stream, I'm just refreshing it on my end so that way we can just get better. What I'll do on my end next time or next stream, I'll try to reset the connection so that way I get a fresher connection, and maybe that helps with regards to, you know, the layout and being able to speak with you guys and having no glitching or freezing. But I appreciate you guys tuning in and always giving me your up-to-date information and everything that we're talking about here, because again, it means a lot to me. Nick Yak says it's better now, so I appreciate that. KGMV says I was in the Matrix, so now it's been better. So I appreciate it. So thank you. I appreciate it. A lot of people are saying I'm fine right now. So I guess it was an issue before. Again, YouTube sometimes when I get a lot of people on the stream, it sometimes gets wonky with the bandwidth, and sometimes it gets a little bit laborious I get with the stream. So what I'll try to do next time is I'll increase the bandwidth on my end. I'll try to reset the stream before I go live, and hopefully that works out so we have no issues. But I appreciate you guys telling me early on. That helps me refresh things on my end so I can try to fix it later on. But thank you guys so much for that. Let's see here. And thank you for the super chat as well. You didn't have to do that, but I appreciate you guys choosing to support the show. It really does mean a lot. Let's see here. Yuri says, we have to be patient as possible because once Mitch does return, he will be omega beneficial. We have to have a proper rotation on the bench. Optimus says Precious can be traded starting in 5 days. Let's see what happens. Optimus 2G says Cam Whitmore from the Rockets is a name to keep our eyes on. Not really. Not really. He was balling the other game, I believe, and I doubt the Rockets are going to give him away unless it's for a legitimate, listen to what I said there, legitimate first-round pick. They're not just going to give him away. There's no point in giving him away, guys. Why would they do that? There's no reason. He has value. Even though he might have some problems with that locker room, maybe he has some issues, they're not going to trade him away just to trade him away. We have to remember that. Let's see here. Brianna says, I guess Cam could help us. He could, but we're not going to get him. Guys, I have to. All right. Let me just say this. Don't get your hopes up, okay? We're not going to get Cam. Cam Whitmore, he may have little value with the Rockets, but the Rockets know he has a ton of value with other teams. They're not going to trade him for nothing. They're going to want significant picks back. The Knicks will not give up the assets necessary to get that player on this team. If you want to do yourself a favor, Nick Richards, Jonas Valanciunas. That's it. Those are the only players you need to get. Finessful J says, let us dream. No. No, they can't. No, they can't. Finessful J says they can take the 2030 pick. No, they can't. Jay, you've lost your mind. You lost your mind, Jay. No. Hassan, I'm going to give you a shout out, but I'm going off right now. Hassan says with the $2 super chat, and I appreciate you. He says Brunson Towns going to run that all-star team. I hope you're right because I need them to be all-stars. We need to vote. Get them into the all-star games. We need our players. Vote. But Jay, going back to you and your craziness, I'm not going to let that slide. I am not going to let that slide. I know you want Cam Whitmore. I understand that. 2030 pick swap, 2030 pick swap. I don't have any. All I have is water. I don't have my red cup. If I had my red cup, I'd be drinking it right now, Jay. I'm not going to let you dream. Bursting the bubble. We're not getting Cam. We're not getting Cam. Cam is not on the table. Cam is not on the table. And even if he is, if I got to give up a 2030 pick to get Cam Whitmore, no chance in my life. No, no, no. No. I just dropped the video on why teams want that pick. And now you use my own video and information against me? You use what I gave you against me? I gave you this information. I told you about this information. And you do this to me? I wish this was alcohol. I hope you don't. I wish this was. Just so you know. Well, the gaslighting worked, I guess. The gaslighting worked. Congratulations. It worked. It worked. 2030 pick. Out of your... I'm going to cuss. I don't want to cuss. My mom taught me, right? Not going to cuss. Nope, nope. Monetized. Nope. Not gonna cuss. All right. Nick Yak says, Mitch has... skipped his comment. Mitch said he was ready for training camp. He has been healthy, but team has been uber careful with him, and he has been frustrated. He looks great, lean, and mean. I mean, we can say that. We can say for an extent that, yeah, maybe the Knicks are holding him back, but the Knicks are not holding him back to spite the team. We're not going to hold him back to spite the team, are we? We're trying to make sure that when Mitchell Robinson comes back, he has a team to play with, and we're not going to hold him back when we need him. It doesn't make any sense. Niles says they trolling you. Don't pay him any attention. I appreciate you. Jay from East New York says, no first should ever be given away from Cam Whitmore. Thank you, Jay. Jay, this Jay needs to talk some sense to the other Jay. Okay, so Jay from East New York, please meet Finesseful Jay. And please talk to him and convince that other Jay that we don't need to give up a 2030 pick to get Cam Whitmore, okay? The Jays are making you look bad, Jay. I can't lie, Jay. I'm talking to both of the Jays right now. You're messing it up, Jay. You're messing it up. You better talk to yourselves, okay? Talk to each other. All right. Last one before we go to the last topic we have, which is Mikal Bridges and his potential next contract with the Knicks, because you know we got to talk about that. Kevin Middleton says, Trae Young, Garland, Mitchell, K, Dame, all having a better season than Brunson. He may not make the All-Star game this year. He need a couple of 50 pieces to change that narrative. I don't agree with that. I think that Jalen Brunson, given the assist numbers, how much better he's been on that level, how elite he's been, how he's been able to get others involved. He makes the team better when he's in the game. He affects the game in that way. The Knicks are a winning team in a large part because of him. It doesn't matter if you score 50 if you lose. Jalen Brunson gave us 55. We barely beat the Wizards. That game doesn't matter as much as the games where dominating teams and he's passing the ball out 10, 11, 12 times. That, for me, is a more dominant game for Jalen Brunson. And this year, he has done more than enough to start in that backcourt for the All-Star game. And I absolutely believe that. One more comment, and then we're going right back to the last topic that we have today. Jay Chosen One says, why would you want to cuss at someone who helped you get monetized? Don't you forget where you came from, my bud. It's joking, my guy, Jay. I'm not serious, my brother. Don't worry about that. Josh Smoot says, free the bench. Nick Yak says 25 points, 12th, 7.8 assists, 8th. I hear what you're saying. I get Nick Yak. I know you're a fan. I get you're going to continue to do that. Let's see here. Frank says, what does a Nick Richards trade look like? All right, so I guess Frank joined the chat a little bit late. So you know what? That's what I'm going to use right now before I jump into the last topic that I have with Mikal Bridges. So he wanted to know what the trade was looking like for Nick Richards. There's a couple of ways they can do it. First of all, straight up trade for Nick Richards. You can do it with Precious Achiuwa, Nick Richards, and probably some second-round picks. I say second-round picks because clearly here, the reports are indicating that if the Hornets are going to make that trade, they're going to want some second-round picks. That's the first thing there. But in my opinion, I don't want to trade Achiuwa because he already gives you significant time and playing time, and also does very good off the bench. He gives you good numbers off the bench right now, and obviously could give you more if the Knicks utilized him more. So I don't want to trade him. The other way you can trade for Nick Richards is you can trade for Nick Richards, Mikic, and also trade that pick as well too, that top 10 protected pick that we have from the Washington Wizards right now, heavily protected first round pick. You can trade that and Mitchell Robinson for Nick Richards and Mikic. It makes the money work. It helps the Knicks right away. Mikic is a veteran guard. You can waive him after next season. But Nick Richards, you get him on this team. And if you get him on this team, you're also going to be able to re-sign him probably in a couple of seasons, given his relationship with Leon Rose. He's young as well, too. He's active. He's available. You keep Achua as well. And that way you get more players off the bench that you can utilize. In my opinion, I would do that trade. But I would only do that trade if I know, if I'm the Knicks, that Mitchell Robinson is not healthy, not going to come back right away. Return date pushed back. Injury got worse. There's a setback. If I know that information, I'm making these type of deals and trades. But if I don't know that information, I might be on the fence about it. But if it's that cheap, and if it's the same trade package that I might get for a Jonas Valanciunas, and maybe the Knicks also want to get Jonas Valanciunas because they want more scoring off the bench, another big body off the bench. If they're going to make a trade anyways, and I can't stop them, it's going to happen, and the trade is between Nick Richards and Jonas Valanciunas, I would rather them go after Nick Richards. He's younger, on a better contract. He can still learn and develop under Tom Thibodeau, and he fits this team very, very well. So I would love for the Knicks to do that if they can. They would have to pull off that trade, but they would also have to do it while also convincing other teams not to bid on Richards. And that's the hardest part there. The Knicks have what it takes to trade for Richards. They might be able to get away with it if only other teams don't have interest in him as well too. But because a number of teams do, it'll be hard to make that trade happen unless New York continues to add more pieces to that deal. And then if they're doing that, that's where you lose me. If you can get Richards for cheap, do it. If you can't and you have to give up significant assets to do it, I would rather wait for Mitchell Robinson in that scenario. There are different stance I have here, depending on where Robinson is, the trade package, and what we're getting back. It has to be very, very correct and accurate. Thankfully, with Leon Rose, that's how it's always going to be. Because we know Leon, when he's going to make a move, he's always going to make a move. And we definitely understand that. But the last thing I want to talk about today, guys, the last topic I have to discuss is Mikal Bridges. That is something that we have to do and we have to understand here. So with Mikal Bridges, we have an update on his contract with the Knicks. And honestly, if he's going to have a contract extension with New York, and if he does sign that contract extension, what is the amount going to be for him and this team? And honestly, I think we had this discussion before the season started. We thought that maybe at that point, he could sign a contract extension. I mean, he could have, but he would have left a lot of money on the table. And honestly, he is not Jalen Brunson. And because he is not Jalen Brunson, it is extremely hard, very, very difficult at this point in time to think that he would think at that point to sign a contract extension, leave money on the table, didn't play a lot for the Knicks yet. We didn't really know what we were going to get out of him. It didn't really make sense at that point to really give him an extension. Not really for the Knicks or even really for not even for the Knicks or even for Mikal Bridges. It really didn't make sense. But according to James L. Edwards of The Athletic, he predicts that this offseason, Mikal Bridges is going to get paid. He is going to get paid significantly and become a major piece for this team moving forward. If we didn't really know that already, we know it now. Let's break down those reports that we have as well, too. Give me a second, guys. My phone is ringing like crazy. I just want to make sure there's not an emergency here. Sorry about this, guys. Just want to make sure I don't have a really major issue here. Okay, no issue. Perfect. All right, let's go. Just going back to this Mikal Bridges thing. So as you see here, with NBA insider James L. Edwards of The Athletic, he gives us the following information about Mikal Bridges and, of course, him potentially signing that contract extension with New York, 4 years, $156 million. So let's repeat that again. According to James L. Edwards, he predicts that the Knicks will sign a 4-year, $156 million contract extension this year. Surely the Knicks and Mikal Bridges had a wink-wink deal in place when he turned down a 2-year, $60 million extension before the season started. New York almost has no choice but to extend Bridges, and I'd be surprised if it's not for that max number allowed. Bridges fits well alongside the likes of Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. He'll be 29 at the start of next season. He's got familiar faces and support with him in New York. Can't deny that as well. And honestly, if you asked me in December, you didn't even have to wait. If you asked me in December, would New York offer Mikal Bridges a contract extension? I would have told you yes. If you asked me, would they offer him a lot of money? I would have asked you yes. I would have answered that question to be yes. Would it be max or close to max? I wouldn't know how to answer that. I wouldn't say it would be max or close to max dollars. But according to James L. Edwards, he predicts that Mikal Bridges will get $156 million over 4 years. And if it's not, it's going to be near the max number allowed. I don't know if that's the max number allowed. It might be, or it might be a little higher than that. If it is, pay Mikal Bridges a max contract. I never thought that was even a possibility before the season started. But now, heading into this offseason, it looks like that's the case. Honestly speaking, when it comes to keeping this roster together, making sure we keep this roster intact, because we're trying to go after that championship title. We're trying to get that championship ring. We're trying to break the drought. We're trying to break the drought. Since that's the case, you have to pay to play. You have to keep this roster together. The core is your starting lineup. All of the starters need to be locked down and kept on this team for many, many, many years. That's the starting five that we need. That starting five is near unstoppable. So dominant. What we also need, though, is a legit bench. Players on the bench that you'll utilize, you'll put into the game, and you'll be able to have an impact with. And another lineup that we've been robbed, that we have not been able to see, is Mikal Bridges as the lone starter playing with 4 bench players. That's what I want to see. I've been wanting to see that all season long, because you get to rest your starters, and Mikal Bridges becomes the playmaker, has the ball in his hands, gets to be able to lead the offense. And guess what? He can do that, ladies and gentlemen. He is capable. He is very, very good at being that type of player. And his impact and his value will unlock even further if the Knicks are able to play him that way. You'll see why he's worth that contract if the Knicks are able to play him that way. He's already proven no matter who he's out there on the floor with, he can get the best out of everyone because he plays unselfishly. He attacks when necessary. He gets to the line. He can shoot the 3-ball. Although, I can also say, for the last couple of games, for a while actually, that 3-ball has not looked good. It has not been falling. But, you know what? I have confidence and faith. He's just going through a little bit of a difficult stretch. And at some point, he is going to get through this. He is going to get better. Those 3-pointers are going to go in like they were going in December. And we're not going to have any issues with Mikal. So I have a lot of faith in him. And I also think Mikal is going to be a key for us in the postseason. We saw his defense during that month of December when we were on that 9-game winning streak. You saw OG and you saw Mikal. You saw how they play defense. You saw how they switch, the level of defense that they give on each and every possession, keeping their man in front of them, making sure they're helping, but not over-helping at times. They do get caught over-helping sometimes, but they try not to make a habit of it. We've seen Mikal Bridges do that. Of course he's going to be retained. We gave up significant assets for Mikal Bridges. So it would make sense to retain him, especially if he fits this roster and does everything that we need him to do. He's already proven that. He's a perfect fit for this team. He gives you lockdown defense at times, great offense at times. He attacks very well. He can create in the mid-range, probably better than most players in the league right now. He gives you all of that on your starting unit. He is Iron Man, doesn't miss a game, plays so many minutes and doesn't complain. He's the perfect player for Tom Thibodeau and this current Knicks team. So there is no way you even chance it with Mikal, chance it with trading him, or chance it with doing anything like that. You retain him. You keep him on this team. You pay him, and you make sure he's part of our future for many, many years to come. And if Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart have anything to say about it, he is going to be part of this team as long as those two guys are part of this team. And I think at this point, we all understand. Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, the roommates, they're lifers. They're likely going to play for their entire career with the New York Knicks because those moves, the trade for Josh Hart, fleeced. Look back at that deal today. We fleeced them. Look at the numbers he's putting up today. We fleeced them. Jalen Brunson. Look at where he is in all-star voting in terms of guards. Where was he in the West? We fleeced them. We fleeced them. Well, not fleeced them because technically we didn't trade with them, but we took a player away from them that they could have signed that they didn't. We're doing all of these moves. Leon Rose knows what it takes for a championship contender to stay together, be together, and win together. He didn't make all of these moves in the offseason to not make the move he needs to make this offseason in terms of keeping them together and paying the players you need to pay. Mikal Bridges is a player that you need to pay. So paying him 100, what was the number again? 156. So paying Mikal Bridges $156 million in terms of a contract extension with the Knicks over 4 years, I would absolutely do it. I would take it. I would make this move if I'm the Knicks because it makes sense. It makes sense to keep your core together, your roster together, and then make changes where you need on the back end, the bench pieces, the depth area, because that's clearly where we need to improve right now. And after this season, we're going to have a bigger evaluation period with this team to understand where we need to make even better improvements, maybe even more major improvements. That's something that we're going to get the answers to later on down the road. But hearing that Mikal Bridges is going to get that contract extension with the Knicks, potentially for max dollars, I am not surprised by it. I am not taken back by it because I knew even before the season started, this was going to happen. I didn't know the number. That's all. I didn't know the number, but I knew this was going to happen because I know Leon Rose and this Knicks front office. You're not building this team to watch it all go away in 1 year. You're building this team because you know cohesion, chemistry, it's important. And once you build it and you have it and it's locked, you're going to terrorize the league for years. We're doing some terrorizing and we are not fully healthy. We don't have the chemistry built and we still have more work to do. Ask yourself this question, ladies and gentlemen. Where is this team when we are fully healthy, when we have figured it all out, and when the chemistry has been developed? I think that team is a team that runs through the league. And that's the team I want to see. And we may not even be far away from that team. Who's to say we can't become that team during this season? It'll take a lot, but I believe in this roster. Mikal Bridges, after everything he's done, without a doubt, pay him, keep him on this team, and make him long-term as part of this roster and this franchise as we move forward here trying to win a championship. I said it before we even got him. I said it when we got him, and let me say it again. Perfect piece for this Knicks team. I believed it then, and I believe it now. And I think in the postseason, he's going to show you exactly why it pays to have Mikal Bridges and why that contract is going to pay for itself in spades, given the impact and level of offense and defense he's going to give this team each and every season moving forward. But before we end the show, I want to hear your comments, not only about Mikal Bridges, but all the topics we talked about today, and even OKC. Maybe Isaiah Hartenstein in his comments, because I know he was making comments recently with Ian Bagley talking about the Knicks, that he's looking forward to coming back, whether he's going to be cheered or not. A lot of things that we can discuss, but we're going to do that over the course of maybe 10 minutes or so, because I unfortunately do have to run. This show went on a little bit longer than I anticipated, but that's okay. I love breaking down a lot of different Knicks topics with you, breaking down the information, and of course, breaking down all of these things and all of these points with all the people in the chat, or if you're watching in the live stream as well too. I love to do that with you guys as well. We have Corey Lee. Let me shout out Corey Lee here real quick. And Corey Lee gives us a super chat right now and says, it's a $5 super chat, and I appreciate it. He says, as long as the butcher number 3 is here. That's where he is right now. That's where his life is right now. Corey Lee, my guy, I appreciate you. And I understand you want Mitchell Robinson as part of this team. You want Robinson as the guy that is the center that takes us to where we need to go. Takes us to perhaps the playoff series, advancing past that, and even beyond that. Shout out to my guy, Corey Lee, who not only helped give us a super chat to the show, but also is a dedicated member to the show as well, too. I really appreciate that. Listen, I understand the love affair with Mitchell Robinson, and I get it. I understand. A lot of people are going to want to keep him on this team because they think that they think he's going to have a major impact when he comes back and he plays. He might, but there's a lot of question marks with him. That's why if the Knicks have some insider information and they know something that we don't know, I don't mind moving him for a player like Nick Richards, especially if this is a trade package that's going to be on the table. But like I said, guys, we're done with we're done with the show as of today. I wish I could speak with you guys a little bit longer in terms of the chat and going through the comments with you guys. But like I said, I do have to run a little bit. But even though that's the case, I'm going to break down some of your comments to see what you guys have to say about the entire show. Let's see what you guys have to say, what comments you have, what things you want to talk about here. Excuse me. While you guys shower me with your comments here, I'm going to drink a little bit more water. Optimus 2G says, Mitch will be traded at some point, just a matter of time. The fans will cheer. I heart. He deserves it. Interesting. Corey Lee, another $5 super chat. Gotta say, my guy, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. He says, the butcher is going to bring us a chip. He clearly believes in Mitchell Robinson. Absolutely does. And can I blame him? If he believes in Mitchell Robinson this much, he wants to have faith in him. I'm not going to tell him not to have faith in him. I'm not going to tell him not to be a fan that way. Believe in it that way. I hope he's right. I want Robinson to be healthier than he was ever before. Come back, have an impact, never make anybody question whether he's healthy or not. I want that to happen, guys. I want those things to go down, but I haven't seen it yet. And until I see it consistently, we're talking about dreams at this point. So that's the only thing that I have to think about when it comes to that. Nick Yak says, Richards for Mitch doesn't make us better defensively. It doesn't make us better defensively completely, but Richards is available, and because he's available, you can put him inside the lineup and you can rest your starters. If you rest your starters and you can play a legit 5 off the bench and have 5 starters resting, Nick Richards and his defense will improve under Tom Thibodeau. He's not a better defender than Mitchell Robinson is, but in offense, he does everything better than Mitchell Robinson. And in defense, he'll learn that. He'll get better under Tom Thibodeau, and maybe he gives you average, maybe above average defense and very good offense. I'll take that right now. From a backup big for Karl Anthony Towns, I will take that because we need it right now. We need to make sure we're getting our lineups to a place where they're able to rest. It's not also about the defense and what you're losing. It's also about who's available and what you're gaining. Robinson, you talk about defense. What defense does he give you when he's not available? He hasn't given us any defense all year. He hasn't been available to give us defense. And when he comes back, how long is that defense going to last? Some things to consider there. Ailden says, he says, I honestly think Mitch should stay for the rest of the season. If he has one more injury, then I'll just let him go. Mitch is a big piece on defense, in my opinion. I appreciate that comment. Optimus 2 says, Mitch is a guy the fans are fond of. Dude is homegrown, but this front office is not that sentimental. Pros run it now. Steve Mills has left the building. Man, don't mention Steve Mills. I'll get hot. I did not like the Steve Mills era. Kevin says, Richard left a bad taste in my mouth last game we played them. 2 points, 2 rebounds. What is that? You're right. Listen, he's not always going to have it. Just like Mitchell Robinson always isn't going to have it. But he's available a lot. That's the thing. Availability is the best thing you can do. We need that more than anything else. Cody says, Mitch is good when he's here, but availability still remains the best ability. Cody's correct with that. Jay Chosen says, Troy, that's the best thing you said today because we haven't seen Mitch. It's just a thought or a dream. Either way, we need a 7-foot center on the bench. We have the worst bench. Have to make a move now. Jay, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your comment. Yeah, like I said, I do agree. Like I said, the Knicks at this point, they need to make something happen. Our bench right now is one of the worst scoring benches in the entire league. You need to make moves happen. And if you're going to need to make a move happen and Mitchell Robinson's not going to be 100% ever again, you know that's going to be the case, then why not make the move? Why not make that trade to get better, increase your depth, give Tom Thibodeau more players that he can utilize, and that way you can rest your starters more. Remember, we have to understand what the problems are. Depth and resting our starters. The depth maybe gets addressed when Mitchell Robinson comes back, but how long does he come back for before it turns into another issue? And when it turns into an issue, we won't be able to address it the same way because we won't be able to trade him. We'll have to wait till the offseason to do that. These are the things that Knicks have to remember. Not everything is easy when it comes to Mitchell Robinson. You could wait, he could come back, he could look great, and then what happens when he gets injured again? If he gets injured again, that could be a problem. Finesseful J says, we need to see what the buyout market will look like. Absolutely correct. The buyout market is something else that we can look like. The buyout market is something else that we can look at. We can look at the buyout market. We can look at Westchester. We can look at a number of these different areas that have talent to add more players to this team if we need more players to this team. But the Knicks are not going to do that unless they make a trade, because clearly, if they wanted to play other players, they could do that right now. They're not, because there's not that level of trust. You need to add more players that he trusts. So make that trade and get another player here that can be that player, especially if you know something about Mitchell Robinson that nobody else does. Corey Lee with another great super chat, another $5 super chat. And he says, we need to get stops and rebounds, especially if CPT hurt or Cat, that wins chips. I appreciate that comment. I think I understand that. We need to get stops and rebounds, especially if we want to get that chip. Karl Anthony Towns is part of that. Mitchell Robinson is also part of that, Corey. I also think as well, you could even say Nick Richards is part of that. Honestly, Nick Richards could be part of that as well too. Because if you're able to trade Robinson and you're able to keep Precious Achiuwa, he could be part of your championship run. There's no reason why he couldn't. Mitchell Robinson and that trade only makes sense to do is if you know he's not going to come back fully healthy. I'm going to leave it up to Leon Rose and this Knicks front office to make that move. And I think that's what's going to happen. Lex the Destroyer says, don't forget to vote every day. Let's get our guys to the All-Star weekend. He's absolutely 100%. I voted today. I continue to vote, and I will continue to vote because I want Jalen Brunson. I want Karl Anthony Towns to be starting in the All-Star game because that's what they deserve. They've been playing like All-Star level starters. They deserve to be in the game like them. Hopefully that happens. Ailden says, so the big problem with the Knicks is the bench scoring. Nick Richards does help that, but who else off the bench has to step up? McBride reminds me of Chris Childs off the bench as well too. You're not wrong. McBride does need to step up, but he's been injured. He has not been able to step up. We need a lot of players to step up. Honestly, whoever's on the court for the bench needs to step up. We have very bad scoring on that bench unit. Everybody knows that. So since that's the case, when the bench is out there, they need to look for scoring opportunities. So that way we can get more bench scoring. But they need to do that when the full bench is playing. We can't have 3 starters and 2 bench players in there and say, yeah, that's the second unit. No, that's 3 starters and 2 bench players. Call it for what it is. Corey Lee with another $2 super chat. And he's a member, guys. My goodness. Corey, my gosh. Thank you so much today for all the support. Nick Richards has health issues too. You're not wrong. He does have health issues. Honestly speaking, almost all big men have health issues. But you'll be very hard-pressed to find players in this league that have the injury history to Mitchell Robinson. And that's what we're talking about here. We're also talking about this year. We're also talking about who's been available, how long they've been available. Everybody's going to miss some games. I'm not saying if you trade for a center and you bring him here, he has to play all 82 games. That's impossible. It's not going to happen. But I would love for them to play 65 games, 70 games. That would be great. But I don't get that from Mitchell Robinson. I don't even get 50 games from Mitchell Robinson. So that's why I'm talking about it now. Again, I'm not trying to push everybody to trade away Mitchell Robinson, but you're not going to try to convince me that if a good deal's on the table, you're not going to make that deal with Robinson in mind. Now, to be honest, I thought you guys were going to want to talk about OKC or talking about, other trades or Jonas Valanciunas or these other things here. I'm very surprised that you guys have kept the conversation on Mitchell Robinson. It goes to show that you guys absolutely care about him coming back. But here's the question. How many of you guys care that we trade him versus how many of you guys care that we don't trade him, that we keep him? Maybe some of you are like me on the fence. Maybe you'll trade him if certain things are true. But if these other things are not true, you won't trade him. Love to see where you guys are with that. Nick Yak again says, Richards doesn't help get by Cleveland at 6'9" and 6'7". OG at power forward. Listen, I understand what you're talking about there. But even if that's the case, you're still going to have to make those adjustments and moves if Mitchell Robinson is not there. What you're doing is removing the element of Robinson. In your world, Robinson's playing every game. In my world, and this world here, the NBA world, he's not playing every game. He's not even playing every game now. We got to think about that. But they don't. Corey Lee with another $5 super chat. Corey Lee is going off right now. I don't know what to say anymore, Corey. I'm so humbled. Thank you. Thank you so much. Another $5 super chat in the house. He says, but they don't produce like the Butcher. True. They don't produce like number 23. They do not talk or do things, not talk, I should say, play like Mitchell Robinson. I give you that. They don't do that. They don't have the same level of defense. Nick Richards has better offense. Jonas Valanciunas has better offense. So even though I can say that, right? What you're saying right now, but they don't produce like the Butcher number 23. I can say the same thing about Nick Richards and Jonas Valanciunas in comparison to Mitchell Robinson. Only thing I have to change is offense. Because offensively, they do things otherworldly in comparison to Mitchell Robinson. Nick Richards can run the floor. Different. Track Monkey says, Mitchell Robinson moves our needle in the right direction with his elite rim protection and his elite offensive rebounding. When healthy, I agree with that. Nick Yak says, we have a tiny team and trading Mitch because you think he's injury prone, but can't name a third injury. What are you talking about? It doesn't matter if he has multiple injuries on his arm, his neck. I don't care if he has 15 injuries all over his body. It's about the time he misses. He could have broken every bone in his body. If he's available more times than he's not available, then I am going to be happy with having him on this team, especially if he has an impact. Nick Yak, you have to take off the glasses here. We're talking about availability. He is not available. All the things you want him to do, he can't do. He's not here. He's not available. He can't help us right now. He's perfect when healthy. That's the thing. We're talking about all these things. The Knicks are being cautious with him. Why? Because he's injury prone. They wouldn't do that if a player wasn't injury prone. Come on, Nick Yak. Don't do that to me, brother. E. Harlem says, Boston and Cavs are the measuring stick. And right now, we can't compete with their bigs, period. I'm glad E. Harlem understands it. That's my guy from a long time as well, too. I appreciate you, my brother. All right, one more comment. I'll be nice. 3 more comments. 3 more comments, and then after that, we're going straight offline because unfortunately I do have to go, but I appreciate you guys. Josh Smooth says, playoff different. He got injured playoffs and just got off the injury. Listen, I understand he just got off the injury. Maybe that's true. But the fact of the matter is, he's been injury prone and had a number of injuries throughout his career with New York. Take away that being pulled down the leg. Still was injured. Still has been injured. The only thing we don't know is, would he have been injured this year or not? That's what we don't know. Corey Lee says, another generous $5 super chat. My guy is on fire today. Thank you so much. The Butcher is number 23, is going to save Thibs. That's why he's a New York Knick. Let's see it. Let's see it, Corey. I want to see it. I want to see it, Corey. So hopefully that happens. I appreciate you. Let's see. Carlos says, we probably only need Mitch for the playoffs. Appreciate that comment. Let's see. What else do we have? Cody says, I think people don't fully understand the I think people don't fully understand availability quote. Cody, that's what I'm trying to say. And I appreciate you. So first, I think that's the last comment we're going to end on. Nick Yak keeps telling me to name a third injury, name a third injury. I don't know how many injuries he's had over his career. How many injuries has he had? He has a couple of leg injuries, right? Ankle injuries, right? Did he injure his shoulder at one point or his arm at one point? I haven't written down each and every major injury that Mitchell Robinson has sustained. What I have understood, though, is the amount of games Mitchell Robinson has missed when the Knicks have needed him. That's what I'm looking at. So I can look at that. We can talk about injuries all day if we want to, but I am going to continue to look at games played and availability, because for me, that's what I look at. I don't look at all of the major injuries somebody has. I look at and take also into account injuries, availability, games played. It's all of that. That's how I factor in the big man that I want on my team. That's how I do it. But I appreciate you. Name the amount of games, Nick Yak, we're talking about injuries. Name me the amount of games he's played consistently over the last 3 years, and then we can talk about things. Tell me how many games he's played each and every season for the last couple of years, and then we can talk about things. That's what we're talking about now, availability. I'm not a Mitch hater, and I hate sounding like one, but when people are trying to tell me, well, he's not that injury prone. He has these injuries, but he's healthy this time, and he's not really that bad. I have to keep going the other direction, because it sounds like you're only trying to say Mitchell Robinson is very, very healthy, very, very good. And when he comes back, he's never going to be injured again. That's what it sounds like. And that's a dream. You're living in a fantasy if you think that's going to happen. What we're doing right now to protect him from himself, to make sure he's not injury prone before he comes back, we're doing that just because we are concerned about his health. If you're not concerned about somebody's health, you're not bringing them along slowly. You're putting them in there as soon as possible. But unfortunately, I wish I could go back and forth. I can't keep going back and forth with the comments, but I appreciate you guys. And I thank you guys so much for joining me during this live stream, being active in the comments. And if you're watching this on the playback and you're not watching it live, leave those comments. I'll get interactive with you guys as well, too, and talk with you guys as well. I appreciate each and every one of you guys jumping into today's show, talking with me about each and everything that we talked about, all the different topics. Nick Richards, Miles McBride. We talked about Mitchell Robinson as well, too, and him firing back at fans. Mikal Bridges as well, and his contract extension, and the fact that the Knicks are likely going to give him that contract extension. So many things broken down today. I love these Friday streams. I used to do it each and every Friday a couple of weeks ago before life got thrown in the way. Hopefully, don't quote me on this, but hopefully moving forward, I want to start doing more of the regular Friday streams where I'm giving you breakdowns of all of this information, interacting with you guys, and giving you guys the information that you need. But again, thank you guys so much for joining today, watching today's live stream, and getting interactive about what you thought about Nick Richards, about Deuce McBride, Mitchell Robinson, and all of these different topics. To close here, guys, I just want to say, Mitchell Robinson, I don't want to trade you. If you're healthy and available, come back, have an impact, and do what you need to do. But if the Knicks know for certain that Mitchell Robinson is unhappy, frustrated, unhealthy, not looking like the same player, has taken a step back in some way, and they want to entertain a trade for Nick Richards, and only have to lose Mitchell Robinson and a protected first-round pick from Washington, and that's all we have to lose, and we get Mikic and the other player and Nick Richards on this team, I might do that deal. Because it helps the Knicks, it helps our bench, it gives us more depth. We get a legit center at the 5 spot. We get a legit center in Nick Richards that we can utilize. Trust is going to be available each and every game. We can still keep Preston Achiuwa and move him to the 4. And that way, he plays his natural position. Knicks get bigger, they get more depth. And because they get bigger and get more depth, Tom Thibodeau will be forced to rest the starters. And that's the main reason to make the trade in the first place, to give yourself more depth that Tom Thibodeau will utilize late in game, so that way we're not burning out the starters. We're not burning out all of our players. And we're making sure going into the postseason, we have a developed 5-man unit in terms of the starting unit and a developed 5-man unit in terms of the bench unit. If we can do that and get that right come the postseason, we will be unstoppable. Maybe it's a trade. Maybe it's calling up somebody from Westchester. Maybe it's looking at the buyout market. Maybe it's simply waiting. But clearly, if the Knicks are engaging and entertaining discussions about trades for Nick Richards, the only reason that would happen is because they have some sense of concern about Mitchell Robinson and that injury. Only time will tell to see what Leon Rose and this Knicks front offense does. But I know when they make the move, it's going to be a move that helps our franchise get even better in the future. Because those guys, that's the only moves they know how to make. Franchise, amazing, altering, shattering moves. The next move could be right around the corner, and I can't wait to see what that one's going to be. But what about you guys? What did you think about today's episode? What do you think about the Knicks potentially going after Nick Richards in a potential deal with the Hornets? Let me know in the comment section below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below. And of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knick fans, take care of yourself, your families, and each other. Peace and love.